It's an amazing pleasure to have Luisa Amaral here. She's an old friend of ours now. She's been before, and July we had a very interesting discussion about translation. This event is part of the Encounter series where we try and bring an author together with the translator to talk about the process of translating. So it's a great pleasure to have Margaret Jull Costa here with us today, and I'm just going to tell you a few things about them both. I've never met Margaret before, but I am just a great admirer of her work as well, because she's a fantastic translator. She manages to get across very difficult texts. So it's only when you are into, my language is Spanish, and Margaret's done lots of translation in Spanish. And I can see the difficulties and the way she overcame those difficulties. But as you know, she also translates from Portuguese. So Margaret's translated, she's a British translator of Portuguese and of Spanish, fiction and poetry. She's translated Ace of Courage, Fernando Pessoa, difficult, Saramago, and various Spanish authors, including Javier Marías, who is quite famous, Galdós, Valle Inclán, Santos del Rocio, Pérez Reverte. So these are in Portugal and Spain mainstream authors, but because we're so dreadful of publishing in this country outside of English language traditions, you know, it's to have translated these texts and got them out there into the public is just amazing thing. So I would like to thank Margaret myself. She's got numerous awards. I'm not going to list them all. Over the last 25 years, you've been translating for, yeah?
He's 30 now.
30 years of translation, numerous awards, and recently, last year, 2015, was given an honorary degree by the University of Leeds. That's fantastic, well deserved. So it's a real pleasure to have Margaret here. And of course, it's a real pleasure to have Annalise. Luisa lives in the north of Portugal, teaches in the University of Porto. She is an academic and a creative writer. Her PhD was on the poetry of Emily Dickinson, and she has published very widely, again I won't go into lots of details, on comparative poetics and feminist studies. She's also the co-director of the Institute of Comparative Literature at Margaret, is that right? Yeah. And she's done a lot of work, and we went into this in our last discussion in July, on the new Portuguese letters, that very famous text that was published in Portugal in 1972. So she's been coordinating an international project called New Portuguese Letters 40 years later, which is now coming together quite nicely, and a lot of academic papers and books are coming out on those topics. At the moment, from the point of view of her creative practice, she's preparing a book of poetry, which will be this one presumably, yeah? So you need to update the Wikipedia page, a novel and 2 books of essays. She has been translated into lots of languages, Spanish, French, German, Dutch, Italian, Swedish, and now English, thanks to Margaret. And she herself has published translations from English into Portuguese, such as Shakespeare's 30 Sonnets, which must have been very difficult, and Emily Dickinson and Patricia Highsmith. So both of our presenters today have experience of that very difficult skill, which is translating. Difficult creative practice. It's more than a skill, it requires a lot of imagination as well. So they're going to talk about their work together, and we will open it up to discussion and comments afterwards. And thank you very much for coming. So, would you like to start?
Yes. We thought we'd start by, have you got your handouts?
Everybody got Thank you.
We thought we'd start off with reading one poem, and I'm originally in Portuguese, and then I'll read my English translation, and then we'll just say a little bit about the translation process of that particular poem, and then we'll read another one and do the same thing.
Yes. Okay, well, before I read it, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation again, and it's wonderful to be here with Margaret. You know, she's a wonderful translator, and so thank you all. Lugares comuns. Entrei em Londres, café manhoso. Não é só entre nós que há cafés manhosos, os ingleses também, e eles até tiveram mais coisas. Agora é só a Escócia e um pouco da Irlanda e aquelas ilhotasitas, mas adiante. Entrei em Londres, café manhoso, pior ainda que no nosso bar de praia. Isto é só para quem não sabe fazer uma pequena ideia do que eles por lá têm. Era mesmo muito manhoso. Não é que fosse mal intencionado, era manhoso na nossa gíria, muito cheio de tapumes e de cozinha suja, muito rasca. Claro que os meus preconceitos todos de mulher me vieram ao de cima, porque o café só tinha homens a comer bacon e ovos e tomate. Se fosse em Portugal era Santos de Queijo. Mas pensei, estou em Londres, estou sozinha, quero lá saber dos homens. Os ingleses até nem se metem como os nossos, e por aí fora. E lá entrei no café manhoso, de árvore de plástico ao canto. Foi só depois de entrar que vi uma mulher sentada a ler uma coisa qualquer. E senti-me mais forte. Não sei porquê, mas senti-me mais forte. Era uma tribo de 23 homens, e ela sozinha. E depois eu. Lá pedi o café, que não era nada mau, para café manhoso como aquele, e o homem que me serviu disse: "There you are, love." Apeteceu-me responder: "I'm not your bloody love. Go to hell," ou qualquer coisa assim. Mas depois pensei, já lhes está tão entranhado nas culturas e a intenção não era má, e também vou-me embora daqui a pouco, tenho avião, quero lá saber. E paguei o café, que não era nada mal, e fiquei um bocado assim, a olhar à minha volta, a ver a tribo toda, a comer ovos e presunto, e depois vi as horas, e pensei que o táxi estava a chegar e eu tinha que sair. E quando me ia levantar, a mulher sorriu como quem diz: "That's it." E olhou assim à sua volta para o presunto e os ovos, e os homens todos a comer, e eu senti-me mais forte. Não sei porquê, mas senti-me mais forte. E pensei que, afinal, não interessa Londres ou nós, que em toda a parte as mesmas coisas são.
The poem is called Lugares Comuns in Portuguese, and I thought it was really easy to translate that actually. It was common places, so it was wonderful. I get the common words as well, which is great. In London, I went into a greasy spoon. It's not only us who have greasy spoons, the English too, and they once had other things too. Now it's just Scotland and a little bit of Ireland and those little tiny islands. But anyway, in London, I went into a greasy spoon, worse even than one of our beach bars. I say this for those who cannot even imagine the things they have there. It was a proper greasy spoon. Not that it was a spoon, of course, but it was greasy, in the sense that it was full of clutter and greasy food, really low class. Of course, all my female prejudices came to the fore because the cafe was full of men eating eggs and bacon and tomatoes. In Portugal, it would be cheese sandwiches. But I thought, I'm in London, I'm alone, what do I care about men? Englishmen don't bother you the way Portuguese men do, and so on. I went into the greasy spoon with a plastic tree in one corner. It was only then that I saw a woman sitting and reading, and I felt stronger. I don't know why, but I did. There was a tribe of 23 men, and her alone, and then me. I ordered a coffee, which wasn't at all bad for a greasy spoon like that, and the man who served me said, "There you are, love." I felt like saying, "I'm not your bloody love," or "go to hell," or something like that. But then I thought, it's so deep in their culture, and he meant no harm, and besides, I'll be leaving soon, I have a plane to catch, what do I care? And I paid for my coffee, which wasn't at all bad, and I sat for a while looking round, watching the tribe, eating their eggs and bacon, and then I saw what time it was and thought the taxi would be arriving any moment and I had to leave. And when I got up, the woman smiled as if she was saying, that's it. And she looked around at the bacon and the eggs and the men all eating, and I felt stronger. I don't know why, but I felt stronger. And I thought, it doesn't matter if it's London or us, that everywhere you find the same. Well,
sounds wonderful in English.
Well, but I was reading, it's horrible reading through the translation you did, a year ago or something, because I immediately thought, don't like that. So it was really painful. But mostly, I think it's all right. And the thing, I suppose the dangerous, difficult thing was the café manuals.
Yes.
But fortunately, we have café manuals here, so and Greasy Spoon really fitted quite well, and it's funny too, somehow. And I think, where in the Portuguese you say...
I say, in Portuguese, in the second stanza, I say, era mesmo muito manhoso, não é que fosse mal intencionado. No, in Portuguese, manhoso means, well, it can mean scrubby, shabby, but it can also mean sly. In Portuguese, right? Sly, cunning. Uma pessoa manhosa, someone cunning, someone sly, is someone manhoso. So, but in Portuguese, that's why in Portuguese it works here. Não é que fosse mal intencionado. It's not that it was. In English, Margaret had to find a different solution. In Portuguese means it doesn't that it meant any harm. You see what I mean? It was manhoso na nossa gíria. That is, it was both sly and scruffy, dirty, shabby, but it's more than that. I think that Greasy Spoon is a wonderful thing because it works beautifully.
Unfortunately,
yes.
It's like it's wonderful when in another language it slips into English so well like that. It's very satisfying. I don't know what's happened.
No, but I think it's for example, I have another translation of this poem made first, where Café Manhoso comes out as, I told you, scrubby cafe, but I don't think it functions at all, because then, não é que fosse mal intencionado, is totally lost, so the play is totally lost, whereas Greasy Spoon, that idea of the spoon, it's funny, like in Portuguese, So the humor is not lost, whereas if you just say a dirty coffee shop, a dirty cafe, or a scrubby cafe, or a shabby cafe, it's a plan. It's something, merely descriptive, descriptive. I'm sorry because I slept 3 hours. Merely descriptive, and I didn't smoke before I came in. So anyway, it's merely descriptive. What I mean is that whereas Greasy Spoon is metaphorical, that's what I mean, you see. Yes. And Manhoso has a metaphor here as well. So you kept metaphor.
Yeah, and I was able to make the play on words. I mean, that's the difficult thing. I mean, plays on words are really hard in another way. I'm sure a lot of you know that. And so that worked. When I was reading it through, though, I thought I wouldn't now. It's coming out in America, so I might be able to correct this, but it was greasy in the sense that it was full of clutter and greasy food. I don't like that repetition greasy. I've changed that, I think. That's what the
Muito cheio de perguntas. Full of clutter and greasy food. And greasy food is great. I think it is great because then, but it's Greasy Spoon, greasy food. I like it. No, okay.
I mean, the trouble with the translator, I mean, normally I translate prose mostly, and so somehow, when you translate poetry, it's like every word is scrutinized of it. And so when I reread it, a poetry translation again, I'm much more aware, I think, of each word, each choice of word. So in a way, and I think I was thinking about, talking about the translation of this, and for me, it was really the tone of voice that mattered, because it's a very kind of conversational language, and that was really important. Apart from the tone of voice, I think it has to be like someone just telling you about this experience in London.
Yeah, I also like the inversion in the beginning. In London, I went.
Well, I have to do that. I mean, that's just imposed by the language, I can't say, well, otherwise you've got, I entered in London.
Exactly.
Not good.
That's how it is.
No, so that's just imposed by English syntax. Yeah. And I don't know, I think the last two lines, again, looking at that this morning with a friend, for me that seems a bit flat somehow. And I think...
The translation?
My flat, yeah, not
yes.
No, yours is good. No, but in English, I think now, I think it doesn't matter if it's London or us, but everywhere you go, things are just the same. I mean, that rhythm is better, it's more sort of conclusive. So, as I say, for the American edition, I might change that. But I think it's also this sense, when I finished a novel, because it's such a big thing, somehow it feels whole and unchangeable. With a poem, it feels far more fragile somehow, my translation. And I don't usually translate poetry. I just started with Anna Luisa and sort of given a thing at Addison. But it's just a different experience. When you translate poetry, I usually translate Emily Dickinson and Shakespeare. Well, that's hard. No, but it's odd because you'd think it would be the same thing.
Yes.
Translating prose or poetry, but because poetry is
it's
so
like writing.
dense.
It's
Yeah.
rewriting. It's writing too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that translation is also a creative process.
Oh,
I mean, it's creative.
Oh, it has to be.
It has to be. It
Yeah.
is creative. That's why it's so important. That I think that the name of the translator appears in the cover of the book. Be it prose or what I mean,
Yeah.
or poetry.
I know.
I think so. I think so because
I'm not sure. I mean, it's nice, but it's not essential. I don't think you do become a translator, to be famous. So.
No, it's not that, but the thing is that you are an author as well, I mean,
Yeah.
For example, I mean, there is this thing about authorship, in translation too.
Really, yes. I mean, as a writer.
Imagine that I would be translating that poem from English into Portuguese again.
Yes.
Your translation,
Oh, really?
I would never put from Greasy spoon, I would never come.
You would make a leap. That
I would never say those words. Never. If I were to translate, in London I went into a Greasy spoon, in Portuguese I would never say um café mimoso. Because precisely because you play with the Greasy, the idea of Greasy is played all over the poem, you see. Whereas in Portuguese the play with Manhoso comes right in that stanza. Não é que fosse mal intencionado, era manhoso e não se agia. Whereas in English, you know what I mean? Not that it was a spoon, of course, so it would be quite hard, to get from there to the word manhoso in Portuguese, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
That would be, I was wondering it would be interesting to translate one of your poems, your translations back.
Yes.
See what happened to Emily Dickinson and Shakespeare.
Yes. You can do that in art.
Yes, because translation is the closest possible reading of any text, so...
Well, in a way, I think it's, is it Haroldo de Campos who says something like, in translation is a space of possibility where everything is admissible except the error. Except the error, But it's true in a way, I mean, you had to play, I mean, this thing of manures was crucial to the poem, I mean, so put something else, totally different from the workout,
And I think, speaking of errors, and that's, for me, it's the great fear I have, you know, of someone finding an error. And often, I think I had someone emailed me once. I translated The Mayas, which is this vast 700-page novel, and someone actually emailed me to ask me about a word, one word I had used, and they didn't think it was the right word. You know, it's just really irritating, you know, because the novel is such a huge thing, and what you're getting is you're translating a whole world in a way. And so, you know, to be picked up on one word is slightly very, and they were wrong as well. So that was very good. Do you want to look at the next one?
Yes.
For people who don't know Portuguese,
So you're going to change the end to the I don't know, I wish that it would be, because the process was, Margaret sometimes, once in a while, she will send me translations, you know, with comments on the side and asking me, can you explain this better, or do you like this, or I'm not happy yet with this, but not all the time, I mean, send all the comments, you know. But no, but I like that very much, because then we can discuss. No, but it's in Portuguese, em toda a parte as mesmas coisas são. The thing is that in Portuguese you can't say this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Grammatically, it's in the limit of grammar.
Yeah.
This em toda a parte as mesmas coisas são. Because when we say as mesmas coisas são, immediately this, you know, it's I mean, it asks for something. So, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As mesmas coisas são como eram, são iguais. Não pode dizer só são.
So in English it should be equally odd.
A bit odd.
Well then maybe that's better to have it as it is then, because that's odd, I find.
And everywhere you find the same, I think.
And it just ends,
Yes.
you know, as if
Yes.
there should be something more.
It is a little odd, you know. I think that either that or in the end, take the just.
Take the gist. Maybe. Because that's the other thing, you know, if something is odd in Portuguese,
It has to be odd in
and then odd, you know, then
Yeah,
people think
yeah.
it's just a bad translation.
Yes.
You know. So
I know, but it has to be in the limit, right, of the language, you know.
yes.
Poetry.
it has to be odd in a way that people say, oh, that's odd. rather than,
Exactly.
she doesn't
But it is recognizable at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
it is neither wrong nor, because in Portuguese it is not wrong to say que toda a parte das mesmas coisas são. It's strange. Não se diz.
Yeah.
No one says this. São, porque diz as mesmas coisas são iguais. É um verbo, como é que pede um predicado. Sim.
So, I might need seeing an editing process in a way.
Refer.
What do you think? That everything,
What do you
everywhere,
think? Pois é isto para as pessoas.
any ideas? That everywhere, I'm thinking that everywhere you go, things are just the same, rather than that everywhere you find the same.
Or wherever we go,
Wherever you go,
we find the same.
wherever might be better. Wherever. I'm making notes. So wherever.
So you're saying that in Portuguese,
Toda a
I
parte
was conscious sound,
que
is
em toda a
what you
parte.
would say normally or not?
No. It's a bit strange.
It is strange. It is strange because in Portuguese as mesmas coisas são, I mean, o verbo ser, the verb ser,
Demands an object.
exatamente demands an object, you know. So it is as if it is an imminence, you know, because the poem is a bit, I never thought about it, you know, I mean, some people say, once in a while read families read of my poems, you know, I mean, I didn't write it with the family's agenda or anything like that, but I think that it is the issue, it has to do here a little bit, you know, with this, you know, women and
Solidarity.
solidarity and sorority, whatever, you know. So what I mean is that as mesmas coisas são, it offers to the verb to be a sense of, how shall I say, quasi imanente, you know what I mean?
Yes, it's
almost,
yes. The
it's
sense
almost a
is kind of,
philosophical thing.
well, the sense is imminent. Yeah.
Yes. You know,
I mean that's what's been so interesting working with you because analogies are so helpful. You know, I can write and say, I really don't understand what you mean, and you don't mind. And sometimes it's important that it doesn't quite make sense. I mean, I'm a great fan of Emily Dickinson as well, and often with Emily Dickinson, you don't. It's written so, and you kind of understand it without understanding it, and that's sort of what you're trying to get in poetry, I think. And so, because as a translator, you want to understand everything. You know, that's your job. You're supposed to understand everything and put it into English. And when you can't understand it, it's quite frightening. You know, because God.
And sometimes this happens with poetry.
I know it does,
you know?
but that's what I'm learning. You know. So, and it's been one. I mean, you know, you're alive, so I can ask you. But Emily Dickinson, you know.
No, Emily Dickinson is a problem.
Yeah.
Has been a problem.
Yeah. Shall we look at the next one?
Yes, and then one wants to say anything.
You want to say anything?
I'll say it later.
Oh, you say it later. Okay. I have, as I said, I've got the literal translation of the next one if you want to look at that.
The first, this is your first translation.
That's the literal. Don't read that. I mean, don't read that. I won't read that out loud. Do you want to read the Portuguese?
Yes, I can. Actually, it's very interesting that you bring two, because you know that I have several versions of this book.
Yeah.
In Portuguese as well.
Yeah.
Lourdes has them, you know, all these versions. I once made a class on that, you know. 6 versions.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yes, I can send you that. Ok. Está hoje um mundo a meio que me apunhala este sinistro ouvido e uma infecção macia e relativa se estende como praia. Ouvir assim um mundo em branda areia, as folhas mal tremendo e na madeira do chão o meu sapato, um eco mal aceso, mais sensato, e as vozes que me chegam de outro quarto, Orfeu, chamando Eurídice. Um mundo assim rasgado, a terra por um lado e o inferno rugindo em chamas imperfeitas de silêncio, ou mais rasgado ainda que um antigo, esse que em tempos idos era meu. De muito longe chega a sua voz. Onde será que ela vagueia agora? Passa tanto da hora e ela não vem. Demoro, eu mori e se ruptura nesta contra-demora de sentidos, vivendo a meio do mundo e os ouvidos, morrer-me neste inferno de ternura. It's very difficult for Margaret.
Well, I mean, it's a good one to look at, to discuss, you know, because it is difficult. I'll read my English translation and then we'll perhaps have a discussion about it. The world torn in two. The world today is only half. There's a stabbing pain in my left ear, the sinister side. An infection, mild and relative, spreads out like a beach. I listen to the world, muffled by soft sand. The leaves barely trembling, and on the wooden floor my shoe, a sensible, barely burning echo, and the voices that reach me from the other room, Orpheus calling to Eurydice. A world torn in two, the earth on one side, and the inferno roaring in imperfect flames of silence, or even more torn in two than the old world that long ago was mine. From very far away comes a voice. Where can she have got to? It's so late and she's still not back. I linger, like Eurydice, over the rupture caused by this counter-delay of the senses, living in this half-heard, half-world, dying in this inferno of tenderness.
Playing the song, you know, senses, tenderness. Very good.
Yeah, that's...
It's great.
Well, I know that...
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Sentidos, ouvidos, you know.
Yes.
There's an essence, it's beautiful.
Yeah. But I think, just to look at it in a bit more detail, this was a poem that I had a different translation for the first time, and then about 2 weeks before the book was due to go to press, I suddenly realised it was wrong, so that I had to change that. But just, you know, in the Portuguese it's esta sinistro ouvido. And of course, sinister has these two senses in both languages.
Right.
But if I just have in my sinister ear, I think it comes across as if you've got kind of frightening ear. You don't want, so I've added in a way so I can get both those senses. In my left ear, the sinister side. And because sinister side is how we usually use that sense of sinister, I think that works quite well. And with the next two lines, I think I've expanded. These were lines I didn't really understand. But I'm not sure about the third line. Mild and relative spreads out like a beach. Se estende como praia.
Manifestação. Infection.
Yeah. No, I understand because I listen to a muffled.
Yeah, and I also do your infection.
Oh, there's an actually. Yeah. So I listen to those muffles. I quite like muffled by soft sound. And when I was reading it through again, and particularly in poetry, I think English loves alliteration, and somehow I think that sometimes makes up for losses, because English isn't Portuguese, so it can't sound like Portuguese. But somehow soft sand gives you branda areia. It doesn't sound like soft sand, but earlier on you've got macia, and relativa, se estende como vai. So you've got ouvir assim, o mundo. So you've got a lot of S's in Portuguese, and somehow I can make up for those lost S's by adding a soft sound. And then I noticed when I was, this barely burning echoes. It's another alliteration, but it's not there, again, it's not there in the Portuguese. Não é como mal aceso. Aceso also means a light.
Yes.
But I can't have a light there simply because the sound is
burning, that's right. Yes. Right.
Yeah. No, Anna Luisa always thinks my poems my translations are good.
Because they are good, aren't they? It's not me thinking it out.
And then a world torn in two. Again, there's a lovely alliteration of it, which I can do in English. It's not there, mundo assim rascado. Até um lado. And then, it's odd, I think the alliteration in English comes from Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon poetry is full of alliteration as well. And somehow, I don't know why, our language just loves it. It seems to work really well in English. You have alliteration as well.
Yes.
Assonance, a lot of assonance.
Assonance and alliterations too.
Yeah. And then, there's suddenly that little... For me, it felt like a mother's voice saying that. I don't know if it is. Where could she have got to? Because you go back into childhood. Is that right?
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
It can be, or it can be, or feel wondering, asking himself, where is she now?
Yes.
I mean, after all, she didn't come.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Orpheus calling Eurydice.
Yeah. And because in Portuguese,
it can be
it's muito longe chega
a sua voz, exactly.
And
But it can be both,
Yes, I have to have a voice, because otherwise I've got to decide, his or her voice, or their voice. So I have to, so that's why I've gone to the neutral. From very far away comes a voice.
But I think it's much better than her.
Oh yeah, I think
I don't think no. Because if you put her, then it's clearly Eurydice. I'm sorry, or his in this case, Orpheus, it's clearly Eurydice.
And the sort of second to last line, penultimate line, vivendo aqui no mundo e os ouvidos, não quero me deixar entrar de terno. I did like that. Living this half heard, half world. Is that what it means?
Yes.
Because that's very satisfying and fits into place.
Because and besides the very poem is broken.
Yes.
The poem is broken, right?
It's a world in half.
Yes, the poem is broken in parts.
Yeah.
I mean, the second stanza is broken into two stanzas.
Yes. It is.
Yeah.
So, does anyone want to, because you've got the literal, if you want to look at it, I mean, you can say anything you like, within reason, I mean, within reason.
Not censored.
I suppose slowly, yes.
Well, I think they're fantastic translations. They
You see,
work.
something-
They really work, whether you know Portuguese or not, you know, obviously.
Well, that's the intention.
That's
Yeah.
I love the Greasy Spoon one. I think you really nailed it on the head there, because Greasy Spoon is such a British thing,
Yeah.
you know, and so not only have you translated it so that it makes perfect sense, and it sounds as if it was originally written in English, but you've managed to locate it within a kind of British context.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is you've got somebody, the I in that poem, saying that they're a stranger, you know, they feel an outsider. And yet you've created that milieu which is so entirely British that you feel like the I person in the poem, that you two are, you know, you're in between these two worlds, the newcomer and the Greasy Spoon. And that little touch of, you know, do you want this love? Which is what I say all the time. But you are taking a bit of offence at that, you know, that is so interesting. I just find them really, really effective poems. They communicate what they're meant to communicate.
Yeah, effective and
You know,
effective.
you're not aware that there's a translator there,
Exactly.
mediating between the two.
Well, thank you very much.
Because
Because I mean, that's what you want, isn't it? You're creating, I mean, with prose or poetry, you're creating a thing in English, and so it's got to work entirely in English and be convincing to English text, you know. So, and with poetry, that's harder, I think.
Very.
Yeah. I mean, does anyone here translate poetry? Do you translate poetry?
Yeah,
Ah.
but I translate between Chinese and English.
Yes.
I have a question actually.
Mm.
I don't speak Portuguese or anything. I'm very, very good at Portuguese. But I want to ask, in the original text in Portuguese, in this poetry structure or style, does each sentence, for example, at the end of the sentence, or some words, whether they will rhyme
in Portuguese.
with each other, or with the rhymes and
Not in this one, but in many poems, they rhyme. Yes, here too, you know, in the end, the last stanza, for example.
Okay.
It rhymes com todo é sentido, os ouvidos tudo. And what Margaret did was she created assonances. You see, this continuity of the senses, dying is a fun of tenderness, senses. For me, you know, I mean, that's a kind, you know, it's not a full rhyme like in Portuguese, you know, but it is an assonance, you know, and that's what you want. See, I mean, that happened to me translating Shakespeare or Dickinson. There were poems of Emily Dickinson and I couldn't rhyme, whereas he rhymes, but I just couldn't rhyme them, you know, fully. But instead I rhymed internally. That's what happens here. You have internal rhymes. I rhymed internally, and I created lots of assonances in Portuguese.
I think that's a,
that's the solution.
I think that's the better option, actually, when you're, I don't know if you find that, does Chinese poetry rhyme?
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the reason why I asked about this.
Yeah.
When you come was translating it, try to put it into the rhyme system. From Chinese translation, because the Chinese language will have more difficulties as well, because there will be ancient Chinese language and modern Chinese language. So most of the poems, for example, ancient poems, were written in ancient language structure. Then when we're translating to modern English, it has that difficulty of matching the rhyme system. And then sometimes when we translate in English, it's completely gone, that structure. We cannot match it at all, we cannot keep it. And then translating it to be able to keep like word by word or sentence by sentence is actually impossible. We just have to translate meaning or the literacy of that sentence.
I mean, I think often trying to keep the rhyme in a translation, it sometimes distorts the meaning so much.
It does, yeah.
And so I tend to avoid it and use assonance, something like that, because otherwise you lose so much. You have to kind of twist things around.
Yeah. This is why currently I represent, by the way, I just mentioned that I represent UCAL, which is UK-China Association of Linguists. In our group research and study at the moment, we're just running a theme, a translation theme, particularly translating the Chinese poems into English. And we're finding that that's an issue. And then when the actual translator translated very well in our understanding of English, it's still commented not perfect English or this and that, but we cannot find a way to match or to really put into the same structure of the Chinese poetic rhyme system.
Or perhaps you have to abandon it. Not the translation, but the rhymes. I mean, perhaps you have to. It's this thing about it being a poem in its own right, isn't it? And sometimes you have to sort of break free.
Yeah. So in the end, I just conclude as well. This is due to the difference in between the language structure.
Yes, but that happens. For example, if I may give an example of Shakespeare. Shakespeare. I translated Shakespeare's sonnets. And he uses, as we all know, the iambic pentameter, right? Those 5 beats, right? The iambic pentameter, which would be equivalent in Portuguese to decasyllable, 10 syllables. Now, I think that the English language is much more syntactic than Portuguese, you see. And if I try to put into the decasyllable, everything that Shakespeare tries to put into an iambic pentameter, I think it's too artificial. It sounded, I started by trying that, and then it sounded too artificial. Thus, therefore, I used, and this I did regularly, I used the 12 syllable line, what you call Longchandrine, the lexicon. Right, which is not very usual, as it is in French, for example, in French poetry. In Portuguese, we don't use it that much. But I think it functions much better because I think that the poem needs to breathe. You see, that's the thing. It needs to breathe. And every language has its own breathing, has its own breath, And,
well, they say that the iambic pentameter is the natural rhythm for English speaking.
But I think it was actually that exactly.
Yes, so we sort of slip into iambic pentameters normally. So, and that's why. And I'm sure that's why Shakespeare chose that, because it was natural.
Yes, well, I don't know. I also read that the iambic pentameter is introduced in England around the 14th century or 15th century, I think. I don't know. I thought that it was more the tetrameter.
In poetry. But I'm in sort of spoken English, that rhythm is quite natural.
Yes, but for example, the decasyllable in Portuguese is not the natural rhythm. In Portuguese, the natural is like the Romantics used it, right? Thus, the use by Portuguese Romanticism, and redondilha, 7 syllables. Like the ones used in the in the quadras populares.
The ballads, it's the ballads.
Yes, it's equivalent of that, exactly. Wordsworth and Coleridge recover the ballad, right? And our Almeida Garrett, the redondilha, which is used in quadras populares. I mean, that's the rhythm of the Portuguese language is different. Like, it was very hard, I think it would sound too artificial to put Shakespeare into that, into that decasyllable structure, which is, not Shakespeare, but Shakespeare sonnets by those sonnets by Shakespeare, because we do use decasyllable in sonnets, of course. Camões. Now, another thing that I tried to do was, and I think it's about the context, you have to think about the context. If you are translating from the 16th century, you have to find words or wording right? And expressions and things, that are, used
Yes.
more or less in that period.
Yes.
And you have to know history of literature, you have to. I think that's important too, but I don't think that if the problem of the rhyme, for myself, I am not. I think that if it doesn't function, it doesn't function. That poem should be a poem in its own right in another language.
I agree.
Like this,
I agree, yeah.
Don't you agree?
Oh, I agree,
Margaret?
absolutely, yes. Yeah, because I think it's like in translation, any kind of translation, it's kind of the voice you've got to catch, and so that's the pleasure. But, I always think it's rather like being an actor, you've got to be this other voice, because I don't write myself, I don't write like you, unfortunately. I don't write like some Margot, my ears, that's not my normal style, but it's sort of taking on that different role, that different voice. I mean, you must find in Chinese, you must find that too.
Well, in Chinese translation, we have even greater difficulty because in Chinese poetry, the poems were written in the structure of a sentence of 5 words, 6 words, 7 words, or 9 words as a structure.
Yeah.
Then when it's translated in English, you cannot keep that at all.
Yeah.
And then often it's considered a bad English translation. But then again, there's no way to keep that going in the same
I don't think so.
manner.
And I don't know if that was the important thing for the poets, that they worked in that form, like people worked in the sonnet form, because that was an accepted form. But it's what they're saying, I think, that matters, and perhaps the voice in which they're saying that.
When it's being read, we just have to feel it, whether the expression is being completely, the meaning is completely expressed, the feelings in translation.
Yeah. I mean, it's that thing with translation, isn't it, that you've got to get the meaning, but it's got to be. I've been doing this for a long time now, but I mean, it's got to get the meaning, but also. It is the voice.
It is the voice. I mean, I was thinking of this poem, for example, Nem Tagis. I think it's a good example.
Oh, yes.
Nem Musas. I have a poem. I'm going to read it very quickly. It's a short, small poem in Portuguese. Nem Tagides, nem Musas. Now, Tagides are the nymphs of the Tagus, of the river Tagus in Portugal. I mean, to put Nem Tagides in brackets, it's horrible. I mean, you can't do that. I think in English. And Margaret put no nymphs or muses, because actually, I mean, they are nymphs. They are specific nymphs, but they are nymphs, right? But they're the nymphs of the Tagus. But in Portuguese, it functions well because it's nem Tagides, nem musas. And then it says, nem Tagides, nem musas, só uma força que me vem de dentro, de ponto de loucura, de poço que me assusta seduzindo. Can you hear it? De ponto de loucura, de poço que me assusta, seduzindo. Não, uma fonte de fios de água finíssima, raio do ar a mais a secaria, nem rio, nem mira, nem feminino grupo a transbordar. Só o que herdeia força não herdada em fonte, onde o luar não está. And now Margaret's translation.
Okay. No nymphs or muses, only a force that comes from within, a touch of madness, of the abyss that frightens and seduces, a fountain of thread-thin water, finer than fine, too bright moonbeam would drive up. No river, no lyre, no female flood of nymphs, only some inherited force, in a fountain where the moon does not shine.
I think it's... You see, for example, I put the poço que me assusta. Now, poço é well, of a well that frightens me. Margaret used abyss, abyss instead of well.
Yes. Well, because abyss is deeper.
Yes, but in Portuguese, poço, in our imaginary, it's also a deep thing. Poço que me assusta,
But if I said well in English, it's plain well, you didn't want that kind of...
But it serves, I think that both poço in Portuguese and well in and abyss in English, just like abyss in Portuguese, I don't know. For me, it serves the same purpose. I mean, actually, the abyss is beautiful, the abyss there, because it's like you look at the abyss and you see yourself, you know, and that image.
Oh, yes.
And here as well, in the post, in the well, you know, I mean, for the Portuguese imaginary, you know, full of, which is very rural, let's say, you know, with that tradition, you know, very, o poço aqui é algo muito, muito, como é que se diz, sugestivo.
Yeah,
But I think that very suggestive. But I think that in English, if you were to put well, it
well,
would
you wouldn't be frightened of a well.
No. I mean, the well does not frighten like in the piece, but in Portuguese it does.
Yeah.
And poço me assusta.
And it's got a psychological thing, isn't it? The subconscious. Poço.
Yeah.
Poço always suggests the subconscious in Spanish and Portuguese.
Yes.
Whereas an abyss, well doesn't in English,
Well,
definitely not.
No.
An abyss, it's the depths, isn't it? The depths of the
Yes,
subconscious. Yeah.
And it has all those echoes of, you know, teaching on the edge of the abyss.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then I think that we used also all these alliterations, you know. In Portuguese era there as well, uma fonte de fios de água finíssima. And you put that to finer than fine. Finer than fine.
That's quite good.
Anyone
It is
anyone got any comments about these translations?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could all see that you guys have got really good chemistry together. and you were talking a bit about the fact that you have kind of dialogue when Margaret you're translating Luisa's poetry, and that it's useful that you're alive. You can kind of talk to each other about what was really meant by the lines in question. So I was wondering if either or both of you could comment a bit about the effect that this dialogue has on your creative output.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what struck me as well.
Yes, because it's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely, you know, because I can, because Annalise always responds very quickly too, so I can send off this anguished email saying, what does this mean? and I get a response, you know, a couple of hours later. And because I think any translation is a relationship, you have a relationship with that author and that text, but sort of being in such close contact and working on such detail. I mean, with a prose writer, I would never ask such detailed questions, I don't think. Only there's certain points in the novel or whatever, but not in that, not as detailed, because it prose and poetry are just different. It's just different things, you know. And so I think it's just been an absolute pleasure.
For me too, it's funny, for example, and then for me, you know, that pleasure, not only because Margaret is a wonderful person, I'm not going to say that she is a lovely, wonderful person, without being, now apart from being an excellent translator, she's a wonderful person, and that's very important. You know, and let me give you an example. Okay, my PhD was done. For example, I worked for my PhD with Margaret Jull. Margaret knows very well, she's a professor at me, but I could never write a PhD with someone I didn't like. See, I think that there are relationships, you know, I mean, that people create relations, you know, I mean, with each other. I think it's very important, you know, that there is that. I'll give you an example. I have a book of mine called Entre dois rios e outras noites, Between Two Rivers and Other Nights. You can't say these, but between two rivers and other nights. The other, you can't in English, it's not fine. But it was translated into Swedish. And the connections between the person who translated that book and me, they were very hard, you know, very difficult. You know, she would, the way that she would put the, I don't know Swedish, that's for start, you know, that was a problem because the English was always there, you know, I mean, because when she would ask me, what do you mean here? Do you mean this and that? I would say, my God, if she thinks this, imagine, you know, what she may be doing with, you know, the interpretation. And I don't know what's happening. But not only that, it was the way that the conversation would flow, you know, and the way that people, I think it has to do also with ways of seeing the world, you know. ways of seeing the world and looking at the world, you know. And for example, Margaret likes Emily Dickinson, loves Emily Dickinson, Shakespeare too, you know. The way that you look at the world, I think it's important, you know, that the way, for example, let me give you another example, the way, for example, that political issues too, because everything we do that, and it's political too, and the way that we look at politics, you know, and by looking at politics, looking at life as well, you know, and friendship, and the important things of life, you know. I think that, you know, the friendship was...
Yes, I mean, yes,
you know,
and I have translated all this haven't liked, and it's not nice, you know, because
You have
it's
translated who? Sorry.
not telling.
No, I didn't understand what you said.
No, there are authors I'm not.
Other authors.
I'm not naming names.
Oh.
Okay. But because it's such an intimate thing, really, to translate someone's words, you need to like that person.
And in poetry more, I think.
Yeah.
Because poetry works more with the unconscious than novels, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
But what's nice from our point of view, I think perhaps you hit on this, is when you're sitting there talking to each other and we're kind of observers, we're just listening in. It's a bit like that listening project they've got on the radio, you know, we're listening into your dialogue that's going on. And it's a real insight into how translators work. Because it's in practice, it's the practice that's being vocalised.
Yes.
The nitty-gritty, you know, that's what I find really interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
now one can ask if this was an example of their
Their practice,
practice.
absolutely.
Or if you were acting for us.
You're just pretending.
I'm all stuff. Then there's another thing, is that, you know, you laugh, you know, it's, it's been fun.
To
You know,
put
it's
into
been
three words
very
together,
fun.
to tune in very well.
Sorry?
To tune in very well.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? I'm very curious about the process, even though I don't understand anything about translation. You, as both of you have said, that it's a joy to work with someone, well, you can talk to, take notes, ask questions, but when if the author, like this Emily Dickinson, is no longer available for questions, where do you go to satisfy your questions, to answer your questions? Because you can send an email to Emily and say, what do you mean by this? But when you don't have that possibility, do you ask other colleagues? Do you convey with this information with other people?
Yeah. Well, I translate as Roche and Fernando Pessoa, who both dead.
Yeah.
And you need to ask other, Portuguese speakers, native speakers, really, because. But sometimes they don't know either.
The translators or writers or whatever?
Linguists, people who...
Linguists.
Yeah. People who are sensitive to language, because just someone who speaks Portuguese or Spanish, it's not, they won't necessarily know. They won't understand why I'm asking that. So it needs to be someone who understands the translation process, really.
Okay.
Or the structure, or the knowledge of the structure of the language.
Yes, yeah. Because you do ask strange things, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, you find yourself asking ridiculous questions. So you appear very stupid, but so you have to approach someone who doesn't mind, you don't mind appearing stupid.
You know, I mean, the most horrible thing that ever happened to me, ever, and I'm very happy to have a daughter, who's horizons, in what regards lots of things are wider than mine, was when I translated, this is a shame to me, when I translated John Updike, Endpoint and other poems. And it was, actually, I started having vertigo from that one, because in that translation, that one was very difficult, much less pleasant. I started translating Updike thinking, I am going to love this, and I'm thinking also it's going to be easy. It was not easy at all. It's very, very difficult. And his poems are it's his last poems. It's a wonderful book called Endpoint and other poems. But there was a moment, I think it was in 2009, and this goes to show how ignorant I am about certain things, I was translating Queen Latifah And it was my daughter asked, and she said, "This is Queen Latifah, a atriz." I didn't know. You see, eu não sabia que era atriz.
I know we can't do everything.
Come on, but do not know. You don't know who is Queen Latifah?
It's an American actress.
It's an American
Singer,
actress.
actress.
I know, but you know what I have done? I have put Rainha Latifah. I have translated that. I would have prepared for the coming behind the computer and say Rainha Latifah. So I had translated literally, you know, Rainha Latifah.
Well, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but it's Queen Latifah. It's the actress, you know.
It's the name. Her name is Queen
The
Latifah.
name is Queen Latifah, you know. So.
So you also need to talk with
I mean,
people
they
beside
were-
linguists.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, you all know that.
Did you know Queen Latifah?
No.
But she's not that famous.
Not that famous.
No, well, that's why.
We're not so ignorant.
But you've heard about it.
Yeah.
And you knew it was not Rainha Latifah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I get across the name.
40, 39.
We know.
Oh, these young people know.
Yeah.
That's the youngest
That's what I'm
of
saying. Being a translator, we have to know so much
Yeah.
about past,
Oh, yeah.
present,
Yes,
and
yes.
all fields. and
Yes,
It's such a
yes,
challenge.
yes.
But it's lovely because you're constantly learning
Yeah,
new things. It's something
that
you
is why
don't
it's
know.
appealing to
Yeah.
linguists,
Yeah.
with this kind of work.
Yeah.
And you have to write very well. I think you have to know very well your own language.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know, that's
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, why would you be a translator?
Exactly.
You love writing in your own language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I write. That's why I translate, you know, because I love writing in English. And
Yeah.
I happen to love Portuguese and Spanish too, but it's just, and you know, I get to translate really wonderful authors. You know, I mean, Esther and Pessoa and Jaime, you know, these are wonderful authors, and to be allowed to immerse myself in those texts is just a joy, you know. So, and I lose.
No, it's a sossego, it's quiet. And trust Sinner, physical issues. You know, we have a wonderful novel that Margaret translated, Trust Sinner. That's a very difficult novel.
Which one's that?
It's called
O
the.
físico religioso.
It's called the Prodigious Physician.
Yes.
It came out early in the year. You wouldn't have noticed though, because no.
I announced it in my cultural newsletter.
You did,
Yes,
you
I
did.
did. It's got a lot of people.
It's a wonderful translation.
Yeah. But then it's like translating poetry. You know, I wouldn't want to translate. I don't know, the equivalent of Dan Brown. You know, because it's so boring. So you can the English. No, I've never read Dan Brown. But I mean, the language, I assume, is boring. I'm being very. I shouldn't say that, should I? I haven't read it. No.
That's all right. I mean, I didn't know that Queen Latifah.
Not challenging. Not challenging, no. So, I mean, I like difficult books, you know, or someone who writes just really well, so I've got to write really well, you know, that's the thing.
And do you get a sense of, I mean, there's books I read in Spanish and Portuguese, and I think, oh, I wish other people could enjoy this, that you
Yes.
get a sense of that you'd like to be, you know, you're on a kind of mission to make this writer known
Oh, yes.
outside, you know, their immediate cultural circles. I think that's a lovely thing to be able to do.
It is. It is. I mean, because, well, Portuguese literature is so little known, and Spanish literature as well. But well, because they publish so few translations,
Yeah.
you know. So it's it is, yeah, and it's a big responsibility. You were saying it's a big responsibility from the translator, because that author has only got your one chance, and if you mess up,
Yeah.
you know, you've probably ruined their reputation as well.
So how did you get to know each other? Were you introduced, or was it kind of...
Through a
With
common
a mutual friend in Porto.
in Porto, in Lesson,
Yeah.
Lourdes.
Yeah, who was my student when I taught in Queen.
Yes. Yes, and one day she said to me, you should come and have a coffee with a friend of mine, Margaret Jull Costa. She's a very, very nice person, you know. And so I went for coffee. And that's how I met my
Not in a greasy spoon?
It wasn't a great.
It was not a beach. No, it was coffee by the beach. You know, near where I live.
It could be.
A nice one, near where I live, yes.
It was
Thank you.
Anyone else got any other questions or comments? Joanne, what were you going to say about sound?
Seems a long time ago.
Sound didn't have an object or a subject.
No, it's for a Portuguese reader when we're faced with as mesmas coisas são. We think tu és como és, as coisas são como são. So there's an echo that we expect to find out. Sou como sou, és como és, são como são. And this echo is like suspended.
Claro que as coisas difíceis na inglês because
But if we look at as mesmas coisas são, of course this is a mystery. We don't understand this, but it sounds familiar because we have the és como és,
this is
são
why
como
I
são.
said the philosophy, it's like a philosophical register a little bit, you know.
So we go deep into our linguistic knowledge to find out that this is strange but at the same time familiar. Why? É como é, são como são.
But then
That's
that's
the echo.
You know, that is the problem in translation because every language has its own resonances and its own connections, and they're not going to be
And this is the instinct. The common speaker wouldn't know what to.
You fill in, don't you? You fill it in.
Yeah.
Have you noticed on the television when you can't quite hear what they're saying, the subtitles say, or you fill it in yourself because your mastery of the language is such, you more or less guess what they're going to say. So for a translator to be able to do that, they've got to have a really good grasp of the original language.
Oh, yes.
Of both languages.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if it's possible to have, because we were talking about this earlier, that, you know, in my own language, words have all kinds of connections, literary connections and family connections.
Some of us are Luisa.
Sad.
But I think it's very hard to know another language well enough to have all those connections.
Well,
You know, I mean,
So you do?
well, I don't think I do actually, but I mean, I was thinking about what Jean was saying. My stepson in America, he's always saying it is what it is. And that sounds rather like what you're saying,
But she's clever and she
Yes.
wrote something different. She wrote a mystery, and you need to be you need to pay attention to your own language to find out the answer. And that's a problem for you.
Yeah. Oh, it is a problem. Which I failed to solve. But I'm still not happy with those. But you see, you find the same is odd in English, I think. But I don't, it's not the same oddness, that's the problem, isn't it?
It's not the same.
It's not the same oddness, you know.
But I mean, it's enough for me that it is odd, you know. I mean, I would like it to be odd because I could have I could, in Portuguese, you see, it would be, I could give a different order. It would be enough, it would suffice for example, to have put these the last two lines in a different order, em toda a parte, as coisas são as mesmas, to be literal, you know what I mean? It would be perfect from the grammatical point of view, as coisas são as mesmas. Mas não é isso, as mesmas coisas são.
Yeah, because that's the different things with sound, estão. You know, we don't have that distinction.
I know.
To be.
Ser está.
So this is sort of also to do with existence, isn't it?
Exactly. That's why I spoke about philosophy. You know, in a way, it's a kind of it has in Portuguese it has this kind of echo. You know, it feels up like
I mean, what it would be if I but if I translate it literally,
I know
you know, the same things
are.
I don't know.
Same things are.
No. The same thing. So that everywhere the same things are.
This row here says no.
I know, but I don't think I do. But I mean, I'm shut it down.
No, I think it's fine, you know, that everywhere you find the same. Because in English it's odd as well.
What about wherever?
Wherever you go, things
Or
are
just
just the
wherever.
same.
That wherever you find the same.
Things are just the same.
Wherever you find the same.
I might go for wherever.
Because wherever you find the same, it's weird.
It is. Well, if we just
The devil is
wherever.
in the tail. The devil is in the
It is.
It's in the end of the book.
I'm sorry?
Il veleno di scala.
Yes.
It's in the tail, it's in the end of the book.
It is in the tail. Yeah.
But what
But I
comes
like-
across really nice, I mean, in both is the sense of solidarity between women, you know, I mean, that's what it's about, really, isn't it?
Oh, that one. Yeah.
But I like everywhere you find the same. I do.
Okay, all right. I need it.
Please leave me.
I mean, the interesting thing doing the literal translation of that second part is
Yeah,
that
the
it's,
literal translation.
it takes you, because you make all those choices quite subconsciously, and that when you do it literally, somehow you think, oh, I don't know if I'd even thought of it like that, you know, writing it like that.
But did you do it literally first?
No.
Ah, you did the literal second.
No, I did that for here. This is especially for you.
Okay.
Literal translation.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
So you skipped that. You
I
skipped
don't
that.
do-
You don't have to do that because
Oh, no.
you're such a good translator. You skip that.
No, I think it's a mistake
To
to do a literal translation. It traps you.
That's what happens when you set. Now I see. When you set a translation for students, they will do it literally
I know. It's
because they think otherwise it's
I
wrong
know.
and they don't want to get across, right?
No.
So
But it's a mistake. I mean, because you don't. Because when I look at, you know, something in Portuguese or Spanish, I mean, the English comes into my head and it isn't the literal translation at all. It's like when you speak another language, you don't speak literally. You know, you don't. It's just a literal translation's a dead end.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How many times do you tend to go back to them and review them? Or observe stuff?
Over and over. And with the novels, it's about, I would go 9 or 10 times I have to read through it again and again. Because, well, look now, you know, reading it, you know, been through these 10 times or something. But then you still see, always seeing things, different things, you know, that aren't quite right, or it could be a different way. There's always a different way of saying things. You know, and then you've got to choose one way.
I suppose as well with poetry when it's read aloud too. You read it and you hear it and you're like, oh.
Oh yes, you need to read it. Reading out loud is very important. Yeah.
Especially in
Oh,
poetry.
It helps you to feel
Yeah.
with a sense of adjusting it as well,
Yes.
whether
Yeah.
it's well translated or whether it needs.
Oh yeah.
Adjustment.
Because it's the rhythm is important.
Yeah.
The cadence and everything. So yeah, so it's very important to read out loud.
But if you get one word wrong, it spoils the whole translation.
Yeah, it does.
So I was reading a letter Ferrante
Oh.
in Spanish.
Oh yeah.
The translation is fantastic. The English one isn't. So I
Is
was reading another volume in English, and it was okay, you know, you're getting along, and then right in the middle where she goes into Neapolitan slang, it went into Mexican Spanish, and it completely ruined the translation. Because you're thinking, where are we? I thought we were in Italy, you know, suddenly we're in Ciudad de Mexico. So I think it really does. One word can just throw the whole translation. Oh, you've got some nice ones, wow. I think I'm getting a hint. So has anybody got any other questions or
Because if someone has a question,
The Chinese poetry.
Well, can I just thank
Yes,
Margaret and Luisa for such a really, really inspiring talk. As was the last one, but it's an inspiring event to have new dialogue like that. It's like listening into your secrets. And And for anybody who wants to do translation, it's just a jewel, you know, to be able to listen in to that, go to and fro, you know, in the practice of translation. So
I enjoyed it too, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.